agenda? Do you want mine that I have wrote on?
I got that, I just didn't have the agenda.
I don't think I brought them down, it looks like.
I can get back.
We're live.
No, we're live, okay, I can go back and get the agenda.
Here you go.
Wait, I got it, okay.
You're good.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, everybody. Again, it was nice seeing everybody's smiling face until the police chief decides he's gonna take that Eagles hat and, you know, if it had a Pittsburgh Steelers hat, then I could have understood it. Okay, call the meeting to order. Again, thanks everybody for coming. We're gonna get right down to, we have some minutes from March 19th that Michelle posted. What's your pleasure?
So moved. Move to accept.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I know where you sniffed off to it.
I was trying to get the coffee maker to work, but I couldn't figure it out. So.
Okay, Michelle, why don't we start and talk about the,
Should be
all
me.
of our different financial things. So you're on.
Great, thank you. So May financials. I have the general fund balance at $5,202,000 at the end of May. So we've, so far this year, been able to gain about over $800,000 in the general fund. We started the year with a balance of almost $4.4 million in the general fund. The greatest contribution to that is that we've been able to reduce our expenditures. So this year, year-to-date, we have revenues of almost $2 million, $7,182,000, but our expenditures are only $6,372,000. We are down employees still. We still have, at the end of May, 222 full-time employees, compared to January of 2020, where we had 253 employees full-time. So that's one of the greatest differences. We're working hard. We've been having civil service meetings, trying to backfill our police and fire positions, among other positions in the city, as we see best fit to bring back. Income tax for the end of May, we actually are up about 3% from where we were in 2020 at the same time. That equates to about $120,000 that we've seen in additional income tax in May this year compared to May of last year.
So that was timing because last year they extended it to July and.
Correct. Correct. But I can tell you, so far in June, the income tax receipts are $1,025,000, which is great.
That's.
We are gonna be up still.
In June.
As a reminder, obviously, the pandemic hit primarily, March. A lot of employees were let go. Here at the city, we had employees let go. Admin folks were let go on May 1st of last year. We've seen that a lot in the community where employees were let go. At this point, I think this year, people are starting to bring employees back, looking for employees. As we know, wages have increased. As everyone has heard, Cedar Point is now paying $20 an hour. So we've seen people paying higher wages so far when they can find good help. Admissions tax this year, we haven't seen much. Obviously, at the end of May, we're not going to see anything because in May, you're just submitting for anything that's been collected through April. Same thing with lodging tax. Year-to-date, we have collected $43,000 in lodging tax, and that would be basically anything that a hotel or motel collected in April we received by May. As I mentioned, the full-time employee count being at 222 is greatly helping with our expenditures. The other thing that's helping with our expenditures is that we have not funded anything into our self-funded insurance yet. That was primarily a strategic plan to help with the cash flow, to make sure the beginning of this year when we budgeted, we weren't sure how it was going to be. As we've seen, we're now no longer going to be under a state of emergency. People are going back to work. People are looking like they're ready to travel. We have people coming to our town as tourists and visiting us. So that's been a great help to us. The general fund contribution to health insurance budgeted this year is about $1.7 million. So in June, we will begin paying monthly to get that down. I think that's all I really had. Payroll stabilization, I know you're going to ask about that one.
That's my favorite, has been for a lot of years and will probably continue to be as long as I'm around.
So right now, in payroll stabilization, we still have the same cash balance. It's $157,784. I've estimated through June, we've expended probably about $176,000. So the way this typically works is that we take it out of the fund, whether it's, a police employee or a fire employee or an admin employee that leaves, we pay their payout out of their normal wages, and then at the end of the year, they've always done the transfer out of the payroll stabilization to backfill. So right now, we had $157,000 cash available. We expected to transfer $210,000 from our general fund budget over to the payroll stabilization fund. So that would give us $370,000 to spend this year. We're looking to spend $176,000 already this year. We do have a couple more employees retiring that we're aware of, but
You and Eric have a goal as to where you'd like to see that. I know what the committee would like to see it, but do you and Eric have some goal that you've worked into the financial, or the cash flow budget, I should say?
so we have not really discussed it. I believe your goal was $400,000, is that correct?
At year end?
At year end?
It's a carryover balance?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that seems about right to me. So that would mean that on top of what you're already planning, we'd contribute another, well, maybe as much as another 400,000, depending upon what we burn through the entire amount, the 176,
So over 500.
yeah, plus 200.
Sure. And I think, obviously, when we did the budget for 2021, we weren't knowing where we were going to be. That $210,000 was thrown in there as a figure as to make sure we could cover what we knew of at the time. So absolutely,
We don't have that 26 payroll coming up for a lot of years.
we have some time yet. Yep, we just had one last year. So that's the good thing. But absolutely, that's on our top priority as far as getting that one backfilled and getting funds in there as soon as we can this year. Obviously, the next thing on the discussion topic was the stimulus funds. So as everyone's aware, the American Rescue Plan Act, the city of Sandusky was awarded $18 million. It ended up, originally it was like $18.5 million. It's been reduced. They did some other calculation, but it's still $18,091,098. So in May, we got half of that. We got half of it up front this year, and in 12 months, they're saying we get the other half. But there are categories that we have to follow for that stimulus funds. There's going to be at least quarterly reporting that needs to be done. There's reports that will be on our website. So we're going to have lots of discussions on the stimulus funding and where that can be spent. There are 4 categories that they've announced of where those funds can be spent, and then your funds have to fall into one of those categories. The 4 categories, first one being the responding to the public health emergency and negative economic impacts. The second category is premium pay for essential workers. The third category is revenue reduction. So last year, and basically at the end of each year, we can calculate what our revenue reduction was and use that amount in this third category for revenue reduction. Through the end of 2020, we had $8.9 million that we've seen as a revenue reduction compared to 2019. So 2019 is our benchmark year that we will be able to use at the end of 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. So we have time. If we see any more revenue reduction, we can add additional allocation into this third bucket of allowable expenses and increase that $8.9 million of expenditures. But there are rules on that revenue reduction. We don't get to spend it on anything we want. Their criteria right now is that it has to be used for government services. And there's
I had a discussion on Wednesday, all the rules and regulations, and I mean, when you read it, it's like reading, one of the tax acts.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And right now, it's a final interim rule that's out, and so, it's going to be changing, so there'll be more guidance coming. The last bucket of allowable expenditures is for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So those are the criteria and the guidelines that we'll have to work within to be able to use these stimulus dollars.
Is there any other hidden, and not that you hid anything, but the federal government is now, you read that they're doing this trillion, that trillion, another trillion here. Is there anything else that you have been made aware of that possibly could be coming our way again?
The only thing I've heard of is more infrastructure, possibly. As you guys probably know, we have $2 million that we've already allocated out of that revenue reduction bucket to go towards roads. So they worked on resurfacing this year, and we have $2 million of the stimulus dollars already at work repaving streets.
And through the chair to the rest of the finance committee, we're very much actively monitoring federal opportunities, but it seems like most of what we're seeing to this point will be competitive programs in addition to, like, for example, and we were submitted by Congresswoman Capter in the transportation surface bill for $4 million for the Sandusky Bay Pathway. It has not passed yet, but that's an example of a competitive, program that we were actively looking. I think she only put 3 or 4 projects from her entire. I think there was one in Toledo, one in Lorraine, one in Cleveland, and one in Sandusky, all around that rate, all for lakefront projects. So, those things, as the infrastructure bills get passed and more funds come, there will be opportunities for us to apply. But I don't know that there will be direct awards similar to the stimulus that will be coming our way, at least not that I've or Michelle have seen to date.
Well, every once in a while, we get lucky and one of them comes our way.
Exactly.
Does anyone have any questions on the stimulus funding at this point? As you know, we're kind of still waiting for additional guidance on those also.
Only the government could have final interim rules.
Yes.
That's an oxymoron.
Absolutely.
Isn't that the truth?
I just want to brief you guys. Rita, our income tax collector, reached out. They wanted to see if we were interested in doing the administrative subpoenas this year. What that means is typically anybody that has not filed according to Rita's records, they typically send out a letter. And that's all they do, because that's all we've asked them to do since 2011. So they would send out a letter if there was a non-filing taxpayer. They sent the letter and that was it. They have a second step available, which is the administrative subpoena program. So after that initial letter goes out, if people don't respond, they get the administrative subpoena that they must respond to. So we are looking to do that this year. With COVID, the administrative subpoena program used to be where Rita personnel would come in-house and people would have to show up here at one of the city buildings and file their income tax with Rita or bring them completed.
Is there a way of tracking, I know that income tax is a confidential matter, but is there a way of tracking, it costs us X dollars to do the subpoenas and we collected?
Absolutely. They have a whole report that they'll be able to give us. So the great
We'll be
thing,
able to see.
the bang for the
Last
buck.
time I know it was worth it. So,
It
And-
was? I thought it was pretty close. The last time we did it, didn't that cost us just about as much as they brought in? But if you get somebody filing then again, I guess that in the future it'd be better.
I think it's kind of nice to do it every couple years to kind of clean it up. They used to charge $7 for the administrative subpoena because the personnel came on site to do them.
Right.
With COVID, they're just doing it through the mail, and they're only charging $1 for each one. So it's a great year to jump on board and get some of our non-filing residents or non-residents cleaned up. Some of this will be, as you guys know, it's just a matter of letting Rita know some people have probably moved out of the community or need to just file something, or maybe they got married and filed jointly that they've missed. So some of it will be a cleanup. So if you hear anything of anybody that needs help with a subpoena letter when they get them, they look to be going out in July, let us know and we'll work through it. But I definitely think, paying $1 for an administrative subpoena is definitely going to be worth it this year.
Oh, yeah, that's much better than 7.
Absolutely.
If I may.
yes, sir.
To what extent do we have the ability to target that? Because I don't want issuing administrative subpoenas to somebody who's making $25,000. That's a waste of time and it's just an annoyance. Are we able to set a threshold of income in the past?
I did not ask that question. I can reach out and see if we can, because that's the hard part. They don't know what their income level is because they haven't filed. They could go off a previous year if they did file.
That's what I'm suggesting. I think it would
Okay.
be more appropriate to target that. Mr. Nichols was asking a question about basically return on investment, and I think that's another way to increase our yield.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I remember we had issues the last go-around on this with kids that had worked at Cedar Point trying to chase them down, and it became a
But I mean, at
circus.
some point in time, it becomes an issue that, I think we're looking for the people that have their good accountants that tell them, they're not watching. But I think that's what we're looking for more than anything else.
I gotcha.
I've always found that if, like, my mother got one a number of years ago. Well, the address is Castelia, the cemetery. So, I mean, yeah, so. And they've been pretty good at, I don't know, Jim.
Yeah.
Once you call and say, hey, this is the situation.
Yeah, they just read a note on there.
And I believe the goal is also to clean up people that haven't filed for multiple years, because they've continually kind of ignored the letter that was sent every year, and they've realized that there's a pattern, that there is no additional step after they receive their letter from Rita, so.
Again, to Mr. Murray's point and what I was saying, if this year it's a toss-up,
Mhm.
then maybe next time we don't do it.
Absolutely, and I'll be sure to share the reports
It's
with
been a
you.
couple of years since we've done it, so.
Mhm.
Or maybe we do it every 3 years or some, and I don't know what that frequency correctly would be, but
It does sound like the price is right this year, so.
Agreed, and I'll be sure to share the reports when I get them, if you guys can see the delinquency program and how we're doing on our return on investment for that. The last thing I had on the agenda was the meeting guidelines. So today would be the first day that if somebody wanted to attend in person, they could have. Starting with July, all members that want to vote need to be in person. So they have repealed where we could do virtual meetings. They'll still be streaming the meeting, so people that don't attend, they can see it, but all members will need to be present starting in July, if we're going to have a meeting in July.
as long as you brought July up, and I know it's not part of the meeting dates yet, but Michelle and I talked that for the meeting in July, our auditors are not going to be ready. We're hoping in August, and that may not even be the case. So the only thing in July would be some report on the stimulus funds, and I think Michelle can send that out to the committee via email, and I see no reason to have, other than seeing everybody's smiling face, to hold a meeting in July. If anybody has an objection to that for any reason, if not, then we will not be holding a meeting in July.
Perfect. Next meeting will be August 20th.
I'm sorry.
Next meeting will be August 20th then.
And again, I asked you, but does Ray have any idea at all?
At this point, LGS is working on doing our conversion. They are supposed to be done at the end of July is the scheduled date at the moment, and they have been corresponding with us,
We're looking at September, realistically.
possibly, yes.
Okay. Okay. Also, I think by the time we get to August, we're going to see some results as to what's happened with our friends at Cedar Fair, and we'll be seeing what, admission tax and lodging tax. So we're going to get some indication, I think, as to where we're going for the season, at least a snapshot.
Yeah, I was looking at how far we were down this year, and I'm just kind of wondering how much that had to do with that pass that they were selling the
A
year
lot.
before. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
So again, it is what it is. And supposedly it's a secret, the formula that they use to allocate, in other words, they put it in some fund, Jim, and then they release so much of the past money based on the number of people that come through. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of people coming through, so
Yeah.
they released very low. And their auditors gave them a path, or said that what they were doing was correct, so
How long do they have for that audit? It was in here someplace. With the extension, the auditors?
Yeah, they just, they came in 2 meetings ago. I'm lost.
In April,
Yeah.
or no, March.
Okay. And they just needed an extension of time just because we couldn't get all of our stuff together, not the city itself, but
Right.
the state. And
Yeah, the state held them up. So they have it, what, until August 2nd to,
right now, they have until August 2nd. I would not be surprised if they don't put all the stuff together, not the auditors, but the state, and get everything done. If they don't get it to them till July 31st, I think August 2nd is not reasonable. And I think we have to take a look at that and be somewhat cognizant that, you can't get something done in 2 days.
well, I'm just looking at, when do we have to be available for them then? Because if our meeting is until August 17th
Okay, that's,
or August
you know,
20th.
again, I guess I don't know. They're going to have to let us know, and Michelle's been on top of it, when they feel that they could get the draft audit report together.
Okay,
And if they can get it done by the August 17th, we'll do it then. If not, then we'll go to the September meeting.
okay.
I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. I mean,
No,
this has just been one of those years.
Yep.
Anything else, Mr. Webster?
Mr. Chairman, I did send an email to Michelle too early this morning, but not in time for the meeting,
Okay,
to be
well.
certain. But I'm a little concerned about where we are with the Muni Court again. And I understand that they did some backfilling of their shortfall last year, but they're running pretty far behind, 20% under budget, something like that, in terms of revenues this year. So, and I'm concerned about whether they have trimmed their expenses as the city has in order to be able to meet the revenues that they have. We may need, we can, and you can respond offline, but we may need to have a meeting with them, or maybe you already have, so you know where they are. But I'm adamantly opposed to the municipal court being subsidized by the general fund. So, always have been. When I came on the commission a lot of years ago, that was a regularly occurring event, and there's no reason for that.
It was 22 years before they reconciled their checking account.
Well, yeah.
I remember that.
To the municipal court's credit, they've been running even for at least 7 years now.
Yes, yes.
And I just want to make sure that stays that way.
I do, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
I do
Yeah,
remember,
have a
Mr.
question.
Murray, we
Mr.
had
Webster,
a-
do you have communication with Judge O'Brien about the budgets, or is that pretty much his?
Chair, predominantly it goes through the clerk with Michelle. They are finance director reader, so we have had good communication with them, but it's happened through Kim Pietrowski is his clerk, and she works very closely with Michelle and others at the city. But I do not have a lot of direct conversations.
When I
with the
say
judge.
with Judge O'Brien, I should have rephrased that. Judge O'Brien's administrative assistant
Yeah.
that basically does the work, and I'd say that if Eric was in the room, but that's okay.
And I must say,
It's also true of me, so we can.
Mr. Chairman, we did bring in our first year, Mr. Murray, on the commission, we had a meeting with all the department heads, including the judge, and I think
Yes.
it came through the finance committee.
Yes, it did. We actually met with
The judge himself and his, Mary Ann Earhart, who at the time was his aide de camp, whatever you lawyers call it.
well, that was in regards to the reconcile on the checking account that we would get.
We went down to how much you spend on pencils, and, it was, you
I don't remember that.
remember that,
but,
Jim?
Yeah, when we did that budgeting,
Yeah.
what did we call that?
And we promised him we'd never haul him in again because it was, we asked him way too many questions about paper clips and pencils and paper. And
I think he was threatening to hold you in contempt.
he was,
The rest of the committee was like cheering him on.
You couldn't find a lawyer to represent you, so what the hell you were done for?
Never mind, I'm done talking. Hit my limit for the meeting.
But, Ms. Murray, I think that's a good point, that as we look at everything, and Mr. Wobser's, and Michelle have turned over as many rocks and stones as I think they possibly can, that we make sure that all the departments are doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I won't hesitate to add that Ms. Piotrowski has been very responsive whenever I've had any information requests. So really great relationship between the city and the municipal court in that regard. I mean, I should say the administration and the municipal court.
Okay, Mr. Wobser, anything else?
Do not have anything else.
Mr. Rozak, anything? Jim, anything?
No, good.
Dennis, anything? I won't do this. I just, this is just, didn't they teach us somewhere, don't ever ask a question that you don't know the answer, but I'm going to do this anyways. Craig, do you have anything else?
You know, Mr. Nichols, I've survived here for a long time. Hard to believe, but I do know when it's appropriate to ask and not ask, and I have no further questions today. I'm done.
Make sure that gets in the minutes.
I want to stay, so in that, when I was younger, maybe I'd stir the pot. I'm not younger, so.
I'll move to adjourn if the chair would entertain that.
Yeah, that's
All
it,
right.
yes.
My second.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Weren't those donuts